Jam Session is a podcast where two guys who grew up in Dallas-Fort Worth discuss sports, craft beer, life, and their experiences living in one of America's most vibrant cities. If you love sports, you're going to love this show. If you love craft beer or you're curious about it, you'll love this show. Great conversations with good friends is what Jam Session is all about.
Welcome. It's nice to have you here. I hope you enjoy it. I think you will.
You're listening to the Jam Session Podcast.
I was told that I could listen to the radio at a reasonable volume.
With Cowboys insider...
What's your name?
Jean-Jacques Taylor.
That's my name.
Radio personality and craft beer expert, Matt McCarthy.
He's a very strange young man.
He's an idiot. Comes from upbringing.
And now, the Jam Session Podcast. It is indeed Jam Session. Subscribe, rate, and review, and hang out with us for a while. Right here on the Jam Session Podcast. The moment we've all been waiting for has arrived. Ladies and gentlemen, the radio, TV, and now podcast star, the sexy Jean-Jacques Taylor.
What up, dog?
I would be the non-sexy one, Matt McCarthy, and this is Jam Session, the podcast, version 32, asking simply that you prepare to be dazzled.
If not entertained.
And of course, as you always know, nothing will dazzle and entertain you more than a couple of our sponsors, and we will start you off. They've got a new car of the week. Our friends at Blue Star Motor Group, how about this one for the week? A 2016 Lexus RX 450 hybrid, all-wheel drive, Carfax certified, one owner. Comes with a 12 and 12 powertrain warranty. It's got, I mean, this thing is loaded, dude. It's got the heated and cold seats, a heated steering wheel, blind spot monitoring, lane assist, the backup camera, navigation, and you can see a picture on their website at bluestarmotorgroup.com, but it is like a stunning, really cool, they call it a Matador red metallic color. You get all this for $29,449.
Once again, sounds like a fantastic deal. Hell, does a car drive itself? Because it seemingly does everything else you want a car to do.
It pretty much does, man. So give Deb a call at 817-881-4066. Or like I said, you can check them out because they have pictures of all their inventory, pricing, all the information at bluestarmotorgroup.com. We love these guys. Big fans of what we do. We're fans of them, so give them some support. And that, of course, leads us into Freeway Tire Shop. Easy to get to right in Dallas off 35. Swing by. Say hello to JR and the crew at Freeway Tire Shop. Whatever your needs may be, we all have a car, I would imagine, especially if you're living in Dallas-Fort Worth, you got to have a car to get around.
Yeah.
And it's just those simple things, the regular oil changes and alignments and the mechanic work to make sure that your car lasts the way that you want it to. That's where JR and the crew at Freeway Tire Shop comes in. And of course, they'll do tires. So check them out online at freewaytireshop.com. Schedule an appointment, request a quote, freewaytireshop.com. But Jacques, let's get into this because, of course, we are recording this right after the Cowboys win in Cincinnati. I mean, you talk about a thumping to some degree, I suppose, but the Cowboys come away with the surprising 30-7 win. And we were just talking about this. I don't know how to feel about this. It's such a weird range of just, I don't know. Like, man, I'm excited. I guess they won.
I was going to say, why you all conflicted, dog?
Well, and we're going to get into this later about the draft positioning, but here's my thought. My biggest takeaway from the game was it's just obvious that Dallas is not one of the worst three teams in the NFL, and Cincinnati is. Dallas is just better than Cincinnati. I mean, that is a bad team.
Yeah, I'm not going to dispute you that, but I don't think that there's all that much difference between the teams, really. I mean, when you look at it, it's about the turnovers today. They did it 3 times, and the Cowboys didn't. I mean, the Cowboys been giving the ball away all year, so this is an aberration that they didn't give it away today. But Cincinnati outgained them 310 or something like that to 272. They had a couple more first downs.
Yeah.
They had a big edge in time of possession, in part because of the turnovers.
Right.
Dallas had the ball 3 times on their side of the 50 and kicked field goals every time. I mean, the Cowboys ain't no good. The Bengals, to me, they're really about the same team. except the Bengals' backup quarterback is not as good as the Cowboys' backup quarterback, and the Bengals made some mistakes. I mean, check this out, dog. When what's their running back's name? Giovanni, whatever it is.
Giovanni Bernard, yeah.
When he fumbles for the first time in 800 more carries, okay, it's kind of your day.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So,
I think, and to your point, I think watching it, I kind of got that idea that I don't feel like the Cowboys did anything to really win the game as much as Cincinnati shot themselves in the foot and kind of gave it to them. Like, for instance, what if they don't fumble it there and Aldon Smith doesn't scoop and score? Then maybe it's a different game. But time and time again, before it got out of hand at 17-0, Cincinnati was driving the field. I mean, they were moving the ball, and then they'd fumble and give it right back to Dallas.
Dude, I never thought the game was over until it was 23-7 in the fourth quarter. Because again,
I agree.
The Bengals were driving, they were moving the ball, they were controlling the ball. But here's the difference, and I talk about this every single solitary week in some way, shape, form, or another. And again, today, you see what I'm talking about if you paid attention. And if you didn't, that's what your boy is here for. Okay? The Bengals. Matter of fact, let me give you the real context so that there's no misunderstanding, Matt. The real deal is that the Bengals only had 3 plays of 20 yards or more. Or I think maybe only one.
Mm-hmm.
When you don't give up big plays and you force a team to drive the length of the field, much like people do to the Cowboys every week, dude, it is hard to score touchdowns. You have mistakes, drop passes, you have penalties, you have a tackle for loss. Any number of things can short-circuit a drive and lead to a punt or a field goal when you don't give up big plays. And so I made a mistake. Cowboys gave up 1 play of 20 yards or more today.
Right.
And to me, that's a big reason why they won. The Bengals ran 70 plays, but only one of those went for 20 yards or more. So you forced them to drive the length of the field every single time.
Yeah, and it was just such an odd game because I felt like, man, these are just 2 teams that aren't very good, but I guess the Bengals are slightly worse than the Cowboys, and it was hard to know what to make of it. I mean, you still, at the end of it, you kind of gather around, and I couldn't figure out, like, was Zeke hurt or was something wrong? I know he was banged up during the week, and at some point I was like, well, I guess he's just done for the day, and then they put him back in there. I mean, hell, Tony Pollard had 11 carries today. Zeke only had 12. I thought that was odd. I mean, he did have the one long run, which was cool, but other than that, they weren't really effective, hardly doing anything. It just kind of happened for them. Almost like I said, almost like the Bengals just couldn't get out of their way. Even the Samaje touchdown near the end that I thought might make it a game, and then it's a hold, and so we got to wipe out the touchdown where he ran right up the middle on him for an easy score.
Yeah, and if they get that touchdown, I think it may be a little different because then I can't remember what the score was, but then it gave the Bengals a chance. And without the touchdown, they ended up going for it, and then they had a chance when the pass went awry. And so, I mean, the Cowboys win. Come on, bro. Enjoy it.
Yeah,
Celebrate
but
it.
see, and that's the thing
you ain't seen but a handful of them this year.
I know it. And you would think at 4-9, you beat a team you need to beat and you should beat. And okay, cool. And maybe things are starting to click. And look, for whatever reason, the defense today, I thought definitely stepped up. Now, part of that, obviously, I mean, that was a butt fumble. Now, they gave Leighton Vander Esch the credit for the causing the fumble, but the scoop and score on the butt fumble, Cincinnati just fumbled that on their own. I mean, that had nothing to do with anything on that. DeMarcus Lawrence made an incredible play on Giovanni Bernard on the first fumble and just ripped it away from him. And the third fumble, it almost happens that way, too, where Darian Thompson makes a great play, puts his helmet right on the ball, pops the ball loose, and the Cowboys are able to come up with it. I will say the effort from the defense today, now they still got gashed on some runs up the middle, but all in all, they only allowed like 3.4 yards a carry, and they only allowed 7 points. Those of you keeping track at home, that is by far the fewest they've allowed all year. The previous low was 20 against the Rams in the season opener.
Well, so they get credit for that. To me, and I saw this a couple times and noticed it, and I really saw it with Leighton Vander Esch, and it struck me. I'm gonna see if you noticed it. Whenever that play was, second quarter, I think, Jalen Smith knocks down a pass at the goal line in pass defense, and Leighton Vander Esch is running around celebrating like, it's the Super Bowl. And to me, I said, oh, he seems excited. They seem into it today. And I saw that a few more times where they just seemed more excited, playing with a little more passion, a little more fervor, a little more energy. And then Chris Spielman pointed it out on the broadcast once or twice, and I noticed it myself. How many times today did they tackle somebody and there was 4 or 5 or 6 dudes there? That's what happens when you're playing hard. There's 4 or 5 or 6 dudes there making tackles, making the play. And that's something we haven't seen way too often this year.
Yeah, and I don't know how you describe that like you were saying. I mean, maybe they just had a little bit more of that juice, but you're right. It felt like the early score on the defensive touchdown from Aldon Smith like really fired everybody up. They were going ballistic when he scored that touchdown. Like finally something has gone our way and we've done something. I mean, 3 defensive takeaways, a defensive touchdown. Like I said, they did allow 100 yards, but it came on 30 carries, so it wasn't like time and time again they were getting gashed. Now, we did see some of those runs up the middle, which frustrate the hell out of us. They got a couple of sacks. I know that they came in the garbage time. That doesn't matter, but even when those things happened at the end of the game, the defense just seemed really excited, like they came to play today and had a little something that we hadn't really seen from them in a long, maybe all season.
I think that's some of it. I was just glad to see him play good for a change, man. I mean, especially when you consider, what was your first thought when you're scrolling through Twitter or you're looking at some emails and you find out that they're starting Reggie Roberson and Savion Smith at corner today?
Oh, I thought they were going to get lit up. I mean, I really did. And I was a little bit surprised that they didn't try, because it's not like Dallas was generating much of a pass rush for most of the game. I was surprised they didn't try some more deep passes from Cincinnati.
Dude, the problem for Cincinnati today was really, okay, they're starting. Cincinnati's, their coach, Zach Taylor's probably sitting there going, okay, they're the worst run defense in the National Football League. 160 yards and 5.2 yards a carry. We got to be able to take care of that.
Right.
And then he goes, oh, my God, they're starting. Who are they starting again? Reggie Roberson and Savion Smith? Oh, my God, we should be able to throw the ball for 400 yards a day. And he couldn't figure out whether to run it or throw it, so he didn't do a lot of either. That's my theory.
Yeah, and let's be honest, Brandon Allen is not a good quarterback. And it was driving me insane on the broadcast at one point when they were talking about Brandon Allen, like, 32 teams, and obviously Joe Burrow is the future here, but Brandon Allen, somebody's going to be looking for a starting quarterback next year.
Okay. I was
like, what is wrong with you guys? You think that dude's an NFL starting quarterback?
Bro, you've gotten announcer bougie.
I really have, man.
You're used to the Cowboys being on the Joe Buck, Troy Aikman telecast. You're used to Chris Collinsworth, Al Michaels. You're used to Romo, Nance, Dog. Get used to the D team, because that's where teams at 12 o'clock
true.
get. They get the D team.
And it's
they
awesome.
Get has-beens and young guys.
Oh, man.
And you just have to accept it.
I think there's a cut of me in the Homer audio that we'll have coming up, which there isn't a ton of, because I just didn't have a lot of heat in this game. It was kind of just kind of ho-hum, but I brought it a little bit against the announcers at one point, because when he got hurt, they just were, where he gets his toughness from? His dad. I was like, he's in the NFL. He got dinged up. Why are we amazed that he's trying to play through it?
So let me ask you something, man. You can't sit here and criticize the Cowboys defense for playing with lethargy and no energy and no emotion, no passion, no fervor.
They had it.
And then your Homer audio lacks passion and fervor and energy.
Well, it just does, man, because I was having the eternal debate, and we'll get into this, of do I want, and I had some excitement. The Pollard punt or kickoff return or whatever that was exciting. The Zeke run towards the end of the game, I thought he was going to break it for a second. I was like, oh, yeah. And so you have those moments, but then overall you're watching it, and I raise my eyebrows. I'm like, for what? What does it mean? Maybe it translates that McCarthy is finally starting to get through to these guys, and there's the disconnect that we felt like we had seen all season long. Maybe he is finally starting to connect a little bit. And the way that he had addressed the team during the week and called them out, and the players talking about how they had to be called out and all this different thing, maybe the message is finally getting through. Maybe that's what this means. I don't know.
Nah, I'd need to see it against somebody other than Cincinnati.
See, and that was my thing watching it. I'm like, okay, I want to believe in these little things, but then again, I'm going, but this is Cincinnati. I mean, coming in, they are 2-9-1. They're worse than Dallas record-wise.
You know, here's the problem that, okay, I just got to be honest with you. There's a problem you have, and it's a problem a lot of people have. And I don't think I have this problem, but if you think I do, you're welcome to point it out. And the problem is you just can't take a game as a game. Or you don't often take a game as a game.
Right.
Because I get mad at the lovely Lorraine when she says I don't always do something. I say, that's just a lie. I do it. Maybe I only do it 1% of the time. But, you know, it's no longer I always don't take out the trash or whatever. Sometimes a game is just a game. It's not, oh, they won. Now they're going to win 5 in a row. Mm. Oh, the offense scored 40. Now they're going to average 38. Or, oh, the defense played great. This is a sign of something. No, sometimes a game is just a game. And it's only after we see it for a month we go, hey, you know, I think that started in Cincinnati. Okay, all right, I see you. Like, you could say, hey, maybe they figured out a little bit how to get the ball. They've had 4 straight games with a turnover. That's their longest streak since 2018. Now we're talking about a real legitimate trend. They only had 7 turnovers in the first 9 games. They got 7 in the last 4. Maybe we can build on that a little bit. But sometimes a game is just a game until it becomes a trend, but it don't become a trend until you do it for more than one game.
Yeah, and that's what we've needed to see, which is why against Pittsburgh and the whole, whether you believe that the defense played better or not, you wanted to see it replicated, and it wasn't. And so now that becomes, and there's only 3 games left, I get it. And you're playing 2 poor teams and another team in San Francisco next week. I have no clue what they are. The Giants got their ass kicked today by Arizona. They look horrible. And we all know that the Eagles suck, although that game, I believe, is on right now. And I don't have a TV where we're recording this, so I have no idea if Jalen Hurts as a quarterback is going to make a difference for them or not. Maybe that'll matter. Who knows? But McCarthy spent this week. He wouldn't call out specific guys in the media, says he doesn't like to do that, but we all were aware of the comments that were made of having to call out, like you need to step it up. And whether it was McCarthy, whether it was they looked at Cincinnati the way everybody's been looking at Dallas, like finally, maybe we can get some things going here and get back on track. I don't know, but at least for one day, to your point, for one game, it worked. And they beat the hell out of Cincinnati. 30-7, they beat them up.
I guess.
But if you're just looking at the game, I mean, whether Cincinnati helped them or not, the reality of it is they were in place. They caused a couple of those fumbles. They were in place to scoop and score on the other one, and Cincinnati couldn't get out of its own way, but Dallas took advantage of when those things happened.
Yeah. They beat them. I didn't get the sense that they beat them up, but they beat them. And, they won, man. So, I feel bad nitpicking their win because they're not good enough to nitpick. They're not good enough to style point. And so, I should just shut up and tell them, hey, they enjoy this dub if you can. I took a Twitter poll, man, toward the end of the game. Did you vote on it?
Of course I did. I love Twitter polls.
Well, I don't take you for granted, man. So maybe, I always like to ask. But the Twitter poll was really pretty basic. It was, did you enjoy the win or, dang, they messed up the draft? I have about 500 votes already. And have you looked at the percentage lately?
The last I saw, it was about 60% were upset about the draft.
Yeah, well, it's still about that deal. And so, to me, man, that's the whole thing. That's probably what you're the conflicted thing internally that you feel, which is, well, damn.
Yeah, because like you said, like you want to enjoy the day, you want to enjoy the win. It was a nice performance. There's a couple of things that happened that were cool to see, especially the defensive touchdown from Alden Smith was neat, like I said. But then reality of it is, you're right, it is hard to look at it as just one game because we know what's at stake and we know how much winning this game might hurt come April, late April, early May in the draft, when who knows how this is going to play out. And like I said, we'll get into that, try to figure out what this means for the Cowboys long term. But sometimes it happens where, it's that whole greater good thing. Like, okay, yeah, this is awesome right now, but for the greater good, I think we all kind of know where this is. And then, of course, now what's going to happen is if Washington is going to lose and You had the Giants that lost. Then what do we hear? Well, I guarantee you it's going to come up again, and we're going to be sold all that false hope again. We're only one game out, and we got 2 division games left. If we can beat the Giants and we can beat the Eagles and get to 6 wins.
Dude, that's what it is, bro.
Which is ridiculous. I mean, that's just silly. But that's what the conversation's now going to be, because technically, I mean, you can go to whatever website, and some of the websites will have like a letter, like ESPN.com. If you go there and look at the standings, they have the letter E next to teams that have been eliminated from playoff contention. All the teams around the Cowboys have been eliminated except the ones in the NFC East.
Hey, man, it's our world, baby.
So who knows what's going to happen? But again, I mean, if Washington loses to San Francisco this afternoon, you're a game out. Now, technically, you got to finish ahead of Washington because they beat you twice. But it's just, I don't know. It's just weird. It was a weird game that just didn't offer a lot. And maybe it's because it was at noon and we got the D team announcers and you realized, man, this is a bad team against a bad team. I just didn't have a lot of expectations for this thing, and it kind of went the way I thought Cincinnati would win. I'll tell you that. We both picked Cincinnati to win. Right. But I wasn't blown away by anything Dallas did. It didn't excite me to think that all of a sudden the next 3 weeks will drastically change.
No, I think that's really kind of the whole thing. Like, they won, and they won by a comfortable margin, their biggest win of the season. But if you watch the game, it wasn't a dominant performance, right? And that's all right, man. They won. It's all good, and we'll move on to the next game.
We will indeed, and we will move on as well here with you. And of course, a reminder: if you are listening to this, and it is December 14th, I know many of you listen on Mondays. We are heading into the week where you will be able to join us live. Coming up on Saturday, December 19th, we will be live at Legal Draft Brewing in Arlington. So if you live in the Arlington area, or maybe even Fort Worth or that range, easy to get to, Legal Draft Brewing, they've got some good beers, and they will be offering a special jam session flight for just $8 for our listeners. And we're going to do a live show out there at Legal Draft Brewing next Saturday, December 19th, from 3 until 5 o'clock. We'll have T-shirts out there that you guys can buy, and we'll hang out and drink some beer. So make plans. Legal Draft, Saturday, 3 o'clock.
Yeah, it's going to be fantastic. I'm going to get there early because the Big Ten Championship game is Saturday, I think at noon. So I'll be there early if you want to hang out and talk to your boy before we get cranked up.
Man, fancy.
And, hey, we'll have our gear there. And special shout out to Corey from Carter. I missed you last time. We were talking about the show at 7-Eleven while I was getting some gas. Corey, the 2Xs are coming in, I hope, this week. If not, certainly the week after that. So get your gear, bro, and support Jam Session, brother.
Yeah, please do. And again, if you are looking for a Jam Session T-shirt and you can't make it out to Legal Draft, that's cool because you can have them shipped to you. We'll send them to you, $20 plus shipping. We currently have medium large and extra large in stock in either black or red, but we did order some 2XLs, and those will be here, as Jacques just said, hopefully soon. We have a very, very limited number of the 3XLs. As a matter of fact, after go through those, we might have already sold out of the limited number that we had. But you can see those and send your orders. Here's what I need. I need your size, I need the color shirt that you want, and I need your shipping address. Tell us where we are sending it. Send me an email if you're interested in a T-shirt, matt@jamsessionpodcast.com. But we continue with you here, and let's get into the block. Local guys talking about local things, and that is why we always enjoy taking a trip around the block. And today, we will start you off. And I got to say, like, I realize his impact and all that, but I didn't realize how many people would be. I mean, he was 86 years old, but Charlie Pride passed away over the weekend, who, I mean, he essentially broke the color barrier, if you want to call it that, in country music. And it was associated, obviously, quite locally. And I don't know if I even knew this, that he had part ownership of the Texas Rangers.
Yeah, see, I thought that was, kind of, what do you call it? Common knowledge. No, man, Charlie Pride is a good dude, was a good dude. And I say that because I met him, he was a fixture at the Rangers spring training because he was a really, really nice baseball player as a youth. And so I've met him several times. When you talk about that dude you've never seen in a bad mood, that's Charlie Pride, man. That's why you see, especially from media people or people that you know on Twitter or whatever, that's why there's such an outpouring of love for him, because he's genuinely the nicest dude ever. And it's a loss, but 86 years is a hell of a run, man. Again, I say this every year. I go, it don't seem so old as you get closer to it.
That's very true. That's very
60
true. Yeah.
used to be like, oh my God, that's old. And I was like, man, what are you talking about? 60 is the new 40. And, my dad, I think, is 78.
Right.
And so I'm sure he looks at Charlie Pride like 86. That's a youngster to me.
That's 8 years away for him. I mean, right.
Yeah. It's a loss, but Charlie Pride, great dude, man. And always telling jokes, man.
He topped the country charts 29 times in his career.
That's unbelievable, really.
I mean, that's a lot of number one hits, man. There's no doubt. Over 500 songs. He was the Country Music Association, CMA, the CMA Entertainer of the Year in 1971, Male Vocalist of the Year in 73 and 74, and, of course, got a 1993 invitation to join the Grand Ole Opry, and in 2000, he became the first black member of the Country Music Hall of Fame.
Well, I mean, I think you got to put some context and perspective, man. Country Music Singer of the Year in 1971, less than a decade after the Civil Rights Act is passed. Dude, it don't really get much bigger than that, because wasn't no brothers in country music. So this is white folks from the South saying, you can sing, boy. You can sing.
Yes, sir, man. I like when you open your mouth and you get the words coming out. It makes me feel good.
See, there you go. Now, who doesn't like Kiss an Angel Good Morning?
You going to sing it for us?
Kiss an angel good morning and let her know you think about her when you're gone.
That's awesome.
Kiss an angel good morning and love her like the devil when you get back home.
Very nice. Maybe you missed your calling and you should have been a country music crooner.
Well, you've heard me blow before, dog.
Yeah, but it's absolutely, I mean, crazy. What a career. 3-time Grammy Award winner. Just incredible. Charlie Pride passing away at the age of 86. And of course, I know some people will doubt this and others will be like, well, of course, but reality of it is it's listed as complications due to COVID-19, unfortunately, for Charlie Pride. Elsewhere, as we take our trip around the block, this is something that they are saying has, and I think it's popular every year, but because of the current times, it's almost like the perfect thing to do. You're socially distanced. You're generally only with people from your own household. And that is going out and watching or driving around to look at Christmas lights this year.
Yeah. Let me see. So, I mean, I know that's something you like to do. Are you getting involved in that? I saw my friend Calvin Watkins of the Dallas Morning News. He put a post up on Facebook last night that he took his wife, Cindy, around their neighborhood in Frisco looking at all the lights.
I am sure at some point here in the next week, we will probably get out and about and roll around and look at some lights. We haven't yet, but if you are looking for some of the best places to see lights in Dallas-Fort Worth, obviously, probably some would say Interlochen, which is the Arlington neighborhood that has been doing it for like 40 years. In my estimation, it's got to be, if it's not the number one place, it's probably number 1B. Now, they're doing it interesting this year because they're only going to do it for 1 week. Starting December 18th, which comes up on Friday, I believe. Friday, December 18th, running through Christmas, the next Friday, from 7 to 11 p.m. each night, Interlochen is going to do the Christmas light displays and have cops directing traffic, and you can get in there and do the whole thing in Interlochen. Normally, they do it like for the month of December, but I guess this year, with everything going on, they've decided to shorten it to a week. If you've never been to that one, it's worth going at least one time, but I'm going to tell you, it's normally a colossal beating because the amount of people, and you're just bumper to bumper essentially as you snake your way through all these lights and whatnot, and it can be it can be somewhat of a beating with the amount of traffic that you run into just sitting and waiting for your turn to get in there.
Where's Interlochen?
It's in Arlington off of like Randall Mill, and I can't remember exactly what the other cross street is.
Okay.
But it's that area of Arlington.
All right, it's geographically desirable.
And so
I would say you should just get there. You should get there like, what time does it start? When it gets dark?
It starts at 7 each night officially, and then they shut it down at 11. Well, they'll turn off their lights and do all that. I mean, it's to the point where they ask you to turn your headlights off because there's enough lights and everything that you don't need your headlights on, and it helps everybody to see the lights better.
Dude. So I was going to say you should just get there like 4:30 before it gets dark, have some eggnog and hamburgers in the car, and just chill.
I guess you could. See, I don't know if they allow you in the neighborhood if you're coming for, like, you might have to sit outside the neighborhood and just wait, but you could do that. Another place, and I've been to there, I mean, we used to go to this when I was a kid, and now I've been there as an adult a few times, and that's Deerfield up in Plano, which for years and years has been one of the best places in North Texas, where all the homes and street after street after street in Deerfield is just lined with a variety of different lights and houses and displays and all that kind of crap.
Interesting. And I say that because I'm sitting around here thinking about my neighborhood, and we've just got a handful of lights up around here. I'm curious. Lights are one thing. Are you down with the inflatable stuff in the yard too?
No, I don't get that. The inflatable doesn't do it for me. Now, I like the wire structures or the wooden structures and stuff like that, but the inflatable, I don't know what it is. I just don't like I don't like the way they look, I guess. I don't know why.
Okay, I was just curious.
It just seems, I guess it seems like a new thing that's kind of taken off in the last few years, and I didn't grow up with it, so I don't see it as a Christmas tradition type thing.
Yeah, well, I think it's hard to get the inflatables to act right. You know, they either lose air and they kind of flop around the yard, or the snowman looks skinny. I mean, there's a lot of moving parts to the inflatables. It
is. It's kind of like if you've had way too much to drink and you're not sure if it's going to work or not. And you're just kind of like, I don't know what it's doing, man. What is this? You know, that's what inflatables are like. But you have Deerfield and then a couple of other places. I don't know if you've ever been to this, but University Park has the Santa house off of Southwestern Boulevard. And it's this dude who every year, like anything ever that lights up Christmas, he puts out in his yard. And during the day, it kind of looks like just a giant Christmas junkyard sale. But at night, man, that thing kind of looks cool.
Dude, I've never even heard of what's his name called?
It's it's in University Park. It's the Santa house. It's right off of Southwestern Boulevard in University Park.
No, I've never heard of the Santa house.
Yeah, there's another one in Grapevine. I may try to go to that this year where he puts out like 1,000 miniature Santas or something like that, like all over his yard. Yeah. Downtown Grapevine is really cool at Christmas in normal years. I don't know if they're going all out this year.
Now, see, that's the kind of guy I'd like to have on a podcast.
There you go.
What's up with you, dog?
Yeah, like, why did you have all these Santas? Like, where do you put them when it's not Christmas time?
Yeah, I mean, you got a storage that you pay $400 a month.
I don't know.
Oh, that's interesting to me.
You know, I think like Highland Park, anytime you drive through Highland Park, generally at Christmas, they're going to have some good lights because they're all rich and they just hire somebody to come and put them up for you. And then, there's another one called Timber Hollow Circle in Lake Highlands where it's literally like one little chunk of road where they do the 12 days of Christmas, like house after house. And we went over there a couple of years ago and I was like, this is it? Like, really? I guess if you're really into the 12 days of Christmas, you might be like, oh, this is neat. But it is very underwhelming. I got to say, man, we went and even the lady friend, she was like, huh, that was it. I was like, yep, there it is.
Sometimes it can be overwhelming, kind of like bad sex.
I suppose, man. But yeah, the Christmas light thing, I don't put lights on the house. I mean, we put some up on the tree and all that, but I don't know. If I owned the house, I think I would be more apt to do it than since I don't own it. And I don't know why. I just don't like to, like having to wrap it and put holes in all over the place and stuff like that. I don't know. I don't know what it is. And as a matter of fact, only one house on my little horseshoe thing that I live on, only one house has Christmas lights up, which is kind of odd, I thought.
I was going to say, I don't put them up because I don't want to work that hard.
Yeah, it's a lot of work to put them up. Then you got to take them down.
See,
I don't know, man.
That is, you can only do that. I feel the same way about the Christmas tree. Like, if I were single, I'd probably pay somebody to put the tree up. Like, hey, can you come over, or I'd hire, I'd pay somebody to put the tree up. because I don't like it enough. I like it when it's done, but I don't appreciate it enough when it's done to put it up myself.
Yeah, if I was single, I wouldn't have anything. There would be no tree.
See what I'm saying?
Like, whatever. I mean, I'm just not going to mess with it because I'm the only one here that would be looking at it. And while I enjoy it, right, and I like looking at it, I don't care enough to do it by myself.
That's what I'm saying. I'd have to hire somebody to put it up, and then it would just be for company.
See, and that's,
they wouldn't say, "Why don't you have a tree up?" I go, "What are you talking about? Look at this beautiful tree."
That's part of the reason why I don't put lights on the house. Now, I would be more inclined to put lights on a bush in the backyard because I go out there and I'd see it and I would like that. Like, I don't care what people are looking at when they drive by my house. I mean, how many times am I going to drive by my house at night and look at it and be like, "Man, that looks really cool"?
None.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I would do it more so that I can enjoy things, which is why I like to do, we do stuff in the backyard and all that. And there's hardly anything in the front yard because we're never out in the front yard. What's the point?
I feel you exactly, man.
That's how it is. And that, my friends, is another fantastic trip around the block here on Jam Session. Now, as we get back into the Cowboys, let's tell you about a couple more of our sponsors. We always like to thank these guys, and that, of course, those wings at Kroger. I am telling you, actually, my buddy Juan, just today, he sent me a text, and he got them for the first time.
Did he now?
He was like, I got to try these wings that you guys are always talking about, and he put them on his George Foreman grill. And
really?
Yeah, and he says, "Man, these are really good." I was like, I told you they are really good. Yeah, so
I never even considered the Foreman grill.
I hadn't either, but smart idea from Juan. So those wings at Kroger, you get them in the meat section in the back. You just tell the dude, "I want the wings in the window." And I know some of you are looking for them and they're not at the Kroger in your area. All I can say is to ask a manager or the guy at the meat department, "You got to get these wings in. I know they're available in a lot of Krogers. Can we get them here?" And see if they'll bring them in for you. There's mango habanero and there's buffalo blue cheese. They're not breaded like other wings. It's just meat and flavor. They're really, really good. I haven't had them in a couple of weeks, but I bet next time I go to the store, I'm going to have to grab another couple of pounds.
Well, my dude, I grabbed 3 pounds last weekend, this weekend.
Yeah.
My dude ate about 1.5 pounds one night and had another 0.5 pound that night after everybody was asleep. So I'm telling you, they're tasty.
They are tasty. So go get them because they're delicious. As we move forth with you here, let's get back into the Cowboys again, talking about the 30-7 win over Cincinnati. And you brought up the question a little earlier, and we didn't really explore it that much, but you had the poll on Twitter asking, and I think that this is the core of what it is that makes it difficult as a Cowboys fan. Are you excited about the win? I mean, this is a team that needed a win. We hadn't seen many of them this year. Or are you more frustrated that it damages their draft positioning?
Yeah, I think it's an incredibly hard question for Cowboy fans to have to deal with. Updated poll. Simply, I enjoyed the W, 41%. They screwed up the draft, 59%, just about 500 votes.
Yeah.
And I think that's the problem. People feel conflicted because they want their draft picks so that they can have hope for the future and hope that help is on the way and hope that one day we can get to another Super Bowl. And instead, they got the W, and the W is like, man, all that does is throw us in a group with like 10 other teams with 4 wins.
Yeah.
And that's I mean,
Right. And so now, I mean, you got to think about it this way, because if they had lost, they would be the 3rd overall pick right now in the driver's seat for a top 3 pick. But with the win, they're not going to get a top 3 pick. That just went out the window. And now, right now, and it depends, we're recording this and the Atlanta Charger game is ongoing, so who knows how that plays out. But the Chargers right now have the 4th pick. If they beat Atlanta, that would change. But Dallas, like you mentioned, is going to be jumbled up with some of those other teams that have 4 wins. And like the Eagles. Are the Eagles right now, somehow they're beating New Orleans. Now, they beat New Orleans and they jump up to 4 wins. That helps Dallas. But if New Orleans beats them, there's just a lot more at stake now, to where instead of probably guaranteeing a top 3 pick for yourself if you lost today, you now are going to be battling to stay. As crazy as it sounds, as bad as they've been, they're going to be battling to stay in the top 5.
Oh yeah, and that I almost want to put that one out the window too, just because now I could see him. Well, I take it back. I could see him. I was gonna say I could see him beating the Eagles. The Eagles playing pretty good today. Jalen Hurts is giving them some life, and then
Right.
the one thing, and I'm not drifting from our conversation, but Taysom Hill has not been great while he's been replacing Drew Brees. He's just been adequate. And they're a really good team, and so,
Yeah, we'll see. It's unfortunate because I decided to start Taysom Hill today to see why not. Maybe he'll go off because the Eagles are horrible. But it doesn't matter because who cares? My season will end today, and that's fine. But, to get back to this thing with the Cowboys, I think part of the frustration is it's always like that because as long as the fantasy is alive, you allow yourself to dream. And you dream of that top 3 pick and what it could be, and not necessarily that you would draft, and maybe some of you were dreaming of drafting a QB, I don't know. But I was having these thoughts of, my God, if they lose to Cincinnati, they might have the 3rd overall pick. I mean, who wants to come up and trade for that? So that means, gosh, you're probably going to still get a top 10 pick. You'll get a next year's first round pick. So you'll have 2 picks in next year's first round. This is awesome. I mean, you talk about really getting some high level infused talent into this team. And you allow your imagination to run wild. And now that's going to be gone because I think if you end up at 5, 6, 7, chances are you may still trade down, but chances are you're going to end up selecting probably a cornerback, maybe an edge rusher, who knows, that you felt like you still could have gotten while having traded down to that spot instead of winning to get into it.
Yeah, but as long as you finish, in theory, as long as you finish in the top 10, you're getting a guy who should be a definite show up and play impact player for you. And if you could do that, man, it's always a help. And you should be able to get a guy at a position of need because you aren't any good and you got a lot of needs. And so whether it's cornerback, whether it's edge rusher, whether it's linebacker, whatever, man, they can use some help. And they should get it from the draft.
Yeah, and I do think that if you're not going to finish in the top 3 or so, that would be the only way that I think, because Sewell will go top 3, I would imagine. He's either going to go number 2 or he'll go number 3, depending on who's there. But that would be the only offensive player that I'd be like, okay, you got to take this dude. Now, as it sits, most likely, and maybe this is a benefit long term, and everybody will be happier this way. If they finish with the 5th or 6th pick this year, then I think that they will take a defensive player for sure. You just go in there and take whoever's the highest rated player on your board and who has any idea what that would be. I don't think it would be crazy to try and recreate, like Washington tried to recreate the Alabama defensive line in Washington.
Right.
Maybe you try and recreate the Alabama secondary in Dallas with Patrick Surtain, the cornerback at Alabama, and pair him with Trayvon Diggs and see if they can grow together over the next few years.
If he's the best player, I'm all for it, man.
Right, and that's the thing, and nobody's going to know right now. They'll go through that whole process, but there is a frustration with that. There is and you see it on Twitter, you see it on social media. I think wherever you watch this game, if you were amongst friends or whatever, then you sit there will be a time where you go, man, I mean, they can't even figure out how to lose right.
I can't really argue with you on that.
Which is true. And it goes back to what I said, because I think if you just look at the week, yes, you got to win. It's nice in a season in which there's been a lot of crappy games lately that you ended up getting the win. But the reality of it also is when you look at it that for the greater good, winning this game means absolutely nothing for the greater good. The greater good would be try to get the highest draft pick possible. But like I've said, you can't ask your players to do that. You want the players to go out and in the 3-9 season not quit and not give up and show that they can have some fire like we saw today. That's not up for them to decide. That's up for fans in the front office to decide about what can we do to help our guys maybe not play as good in a sense. You know what I mean?
Players are going to, players want to win, man. Ain't no fun in losing.
Yeah,
they want to win.
And you never want guys to go out there and just lose on purpose. That would be disgusting to watch and would pitch you off even more.
Yeah, plus, man, if you're let's just say if you're Reggie Roberson and you somehow managed to stay in the league 4 years, this is one of your last chances. If you're Savion Smith, and this is one of the few opportunities you're ever going to have to play,
right.
Those guys are playing as hard as they can possibly play. Now, the flip side is they just may not be good enough. But they're playing as hard as they can play because, dude, they're trying to stay in the league long enough to make $1 million contract.
Yeah. And so you go about it now, and like, I don't know that it matters. I don't know if it means anything, but you stop a 2-game losing streak. Now you're 2-2 in your last 4, 500 in the last month.
Really? See, I hadn't even looked at it like that. Who they got next? San Francisco?
They got San Francisco before closing out with Philadelphia and the Giants. And, I mean, it would not be – and this is what's so wild about this team is what we saw against Baltimore, I was convinced they were going to lose 4 in a row. But what they did today, I don't have a friggin' clue about this team week to week. I have no idea. For all I know, they go up against San Francisco this week and get their ass kicked. But at the same token, not like San Francisco's some great team. Maybe they beat San Francisco. That's what's so weird about this team. I have no clue what to expect on a week-to-week basis.
I mean, we say that, but I don't really think you believe that. In your heart of hearts, if I point it out to you. Because if I point it out to you, I say, most weeks, Matt, they struggle to score touchdowns offensively.
Right.
And today they struggle to score touchdowns offensively. I say most weeks they struggle to get turnovers. They got them today, and that's a big reason why they won. Most weeks they turn the ball over.
Right.
They didn't today. Most weeks they struggle to stop the run. Today they stopped the run. But in the NFL, what I've learned from 25 years of covering the National Football League, Matt, is that who you are is who you are. And there can always be an aberrant performance, be it from a team or from a player. But 12 weeks into the season, you are who you are, and so I would expect them to revert to their normal form next week. And, whatever. And to me, that's a bad matchup for them because San Francisco will run the ball and won't even think about passing because what they love to do most is run the ball, and that's what this team is worst at.
Yeah, but if you're looking for a positive, 2-2 in the last month, they now have, 7 takeaways in their last 4 games defensively.
Yeah.
And they broke their streak. I mean, they had turned the ball over in every single game since the season opener against the Rams, and they finally get another game where they don't turn the ball over. So they had gone 11 straight games with a turnover until today. So I guess that's nice. Good job, guys. But still, I'm going to tell you this. April, whatever it is, that last weekend in April, that last Thursday, when we're sitting there getting ready for the first round of the draft, all of us are going to sit there and go, man, if they hadn't beaten Cincinnati, it'd be kind of cool to have a top 3 pick, huh?
Yeah, you're right.
Because when they finish 4-12 or 5-11 this year and they miss the playoffs and it doesn't matter anyway, I guarantee you that day in April, we're going to be like, wow, I mean, drafting top 6 is neat, but top 3, man, that'd have been cool to see what would happen. Especially when whoever ends up in 3, let's say it is Cincinnati, trades down out of the 3 spot and ends up with like 5 extra draft picks. And we're going to sit and we'll go, man, that could have been Dallas. Dallas could have got that deal.
Yeah, for sure. I already know that's going down. We'll be like, here's all the guys they could have drafted.
Exactly. And then forever. And then 5 years from now, we'll go back and look at that trade and be like, man, remember 5 years ago when Dallas ended up winning and beating Cincinnati and Cincinnati got those picks and drafted these guys? I mean, it'll just be, you go down the rabbit hole and it'll never end. But as we continue here and we continue our conversation about the Cowboys, yeah, okay, so they screwed up draft positioning, but one thing that I thought was cool to see today was the Andy Dalton return to Cincinnati, taking on the only franchise he had ever played for in his career until he got to Dallas. And I thought it was cool at the very beginning of the game when they announced the Cowboys coming out of the tunnel and they said Andy Dalton and the Dallas Cowboys to make a point of that. And I thought it was cool. And I thought he played about as good as you'd expect him to play at this point in his career.
Yeah, I would say that. I would say I went back and looked at his numbers at the end, and he's a pretty good backup because we've seen now that he's functional and he can run the offense. But the reason why I really view him as a pretty good backup and not somebody's starter is he has a big math factor as a starter. He's almost evolved. And this shouldn't really be a negative. It's just what it is. And you can actually live with it. He's kind of evolved into Alex Smith to me. He's a guy who checks down, who throws to the outside, not in the middle, who takes few chances, and who in a normal situation doesn't really turn the ball over that much.
Right.
And so he gives you a chance to win because he's not making mistakes, but he ain't really pressing the issue. So if your other guys don't do something to help you win, you just kind of what you got. But it was good to see him play today, and it was good. You know, TV does this, especially when you got two bad teams playing. They were all locked in on his wife in the suite and him and their communication.
Oh, no doubt. And I thought, I mean, how in the world does Chris Spielman not know that hand signal means I love you? Like at that one point, he goes, hook 'em horns. Why is he doing that? That's for a TCU guy. And whoever the play-by-play dude was like, wait, no. That means I love you. Like, that's a symbol of love. And he was like, oh, that makes way more sense. I was like, obviously. Like, how do you not know that? But then again, my announcer hate coming through against the D team, I guess.
Of course, I didn't know that.
You didn't know that? That's sign language for I love you. When you hold up that, it's like the horns coming up with the thumb out. Yeah. Huh. I thought that was common knowledge.
Why would I?
I don't know, because people do that from time. You see it around. I mean, and it was obvious. Like, I mean, the first touchdown he threw, he turned around, gave that signal, and was looking. I was like, oh, he must be telling his wife or his family, whoever's up there, that he loves them.
Oh, who knew?
Well, there you have it.
I just figured it was their own little signal they had worked out before the game.
No, everybody. No, that's a common.
Christie used to do that with his wife.
Well, yeah, there you go.
A whole series of hand gestures and stuff they'd worked out.
Dude, I friend.
I knew that they were communicating, but I just didn't know what it was.
I had a friend in high school who was dating a girl, and they did, I think they held up the number 3, or they did something with 3 for I love you. And anytime they would, like, if he was out in the hall, I was going with them somewhere, and she was in a different class, and he would look in her class, like through the little window in the door, and see her and like give her the little signal. I was like, what are you guys doing? Yes. Wow. In high school, they had this intricate hand signal communication thing. But Andy Dalton today, I mean, all in all, like you said, when you look at his numbers, efficient enough to obviously get the win. He did make some nice passes. I thought he had some nice throws. Now, he probably should have been picked off at least once, but you get the win. And I think for a homecoming, when you do what you did and you're able to put up the numbers, that it's not like he was spectacular by any means, but he was efficient. And in a place where you had played your whole career and you're the all-time franchise leader in touchdown passes and second in wins and all these different things, that had to be pretty cool for him.
No, I think it was probably like, yeah, I told y'all I could still play. Take that. And we all know, man, whether you run into your ex somewhere or you're going to be in an event where your ex is, if you don't see him often, you're like, let me see who's the baddest woman I can take with me to this event. You know?
Yeah.
Or you go, oh, we got this event coming down. I'm going to see her. Okay, I need to drop 20 pounds and get a haircut and a shave and show up like, yo, what's up? How you been doing?
Right. All fancy.
So,
yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So to me, this was no different. Like, hey, look at my new team. Look what y'all missing. I know you wish I was back.
They're like, yeah, we would rather have 4 wins than 2.
But I think there was some of that that's just human nature, man. It's no different than why Dez wanted so badly to play against the Cowboys in Baltimore last week. You just want to show them I can still play a little something, man. You didn't think I could? Well, take this, you 7-letter cuss word.
Yeah, and so Dalton on the day, 16 of 23, 185, 2 touchdowns, sacked a couple of times, but he had some nice throws. I mean, the pass to Lamb that ended up going for like 32 or whatever it was, he had a 20-yarder, I think, to Cooper at one point, and I think, obviously, it was kind of funny on the sidelines when they went back and showed that if he had stayed with Cooper a little bit longer on the 32-yarder to Lamb, that's a touchdown. That's a wide open. Cooper, the route he ran, he absolutely burned that dude. And then they showed him on the sideline, and Dalton had his head in his hands. He's like, oh, and Amari's just sitting there laughing like, dude, like, I was wide open. Like, how'd you miss that?
Well, I mean, the reality is you go, now Andy Dalton knows it's a sluggo route, slant and go.
Yeah.
He sees him covering tight on the slant. So that kind of means that, oh, when he hits the go button, he should kind of be there. But again, to me, that's kind of like what you get with Andy Dalton. He's like, I know he'll probably be open, but I got a completion over here. Let me just take what I got, the bird in the hand. I don't need 2 in the bush. I'm good to go.
Yeah, and so they got it today. Andy Dalton, just good enough. And that's what's so crazy, I feel like, about this game is the fact that you win by 23 points And it feels like it wasn't that big of a gap between the two. Like, it doesn't feel like a 3-score blowout, which I keep saying, like, just good enough, or they just got this done. And I don't know. That is what it feels like, even though it was a 23-point win.
Well, that's what it was. I mean, the reality is, it's if you watch the game, you know this was not a dominant performance. They won, and they get all the credit for that. But we saw the touchdown call back against Cincinnati for the hold. If that's not called back, I think the score is 20-14 with 8 minutes left.
Yeah.
Which means you better do something with the ball the next time you get it, or they're going to be driving for the lead with all the momentum. So we saw the game. We know what took place. This wasn't a dominant effort, but they managed to win. And the NFL, as we've talked about 1,010 times, so this makes 1,011, is all about 4 or 5 plays every game. Do you make them or do you not? If you make them, like the Cowboys did today, you win. And if you don't make them, like they've done too many times this year, you lose.
So they win today, 4-9. How exciting. Only 3 weeks left, and then we'll turn the calendar and look forward to 2021, I guess. Unless...
Bang, 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 bang. What was that, Matt?
That sounded like your Texas Tech call.
No, that was the red rifle going off.
All right. Well, okay.
That was random.
It was. I liked it. Well done. So we continue with you here on Jam Session, and let's tell you about a couple more of our sponsors, and we appreciate their support. Get out and support these guys, and one of those is Fitzgerald Law. Attorney Chris W. Fitzgerald, he can help you if you have legal questions. Perhaps you've got something you're dealing with and you're not exactly sure. It could be a contract that you're looking at. It's always best to have somebody who knows the legalese check that out before you sign that thing. Perhaps you have some probate issues you're going through, a business transaction, consumer bankruptcy. Chris covers a variety of things. And the cool thing about this is he does it virtually. He's got a really solid virtual law practice where he can handle pretty much a variety of fields and almost all your needs exclusively online, which is good because a lot of courts are moving to these setups now where you don't have to be in person for the hearings. They're doing a lot of these things telephonically or perhaps like a Zoom type meeting where everybody's on video.
No, everybody needs a lawyer, man. And one who can handle your stuff without you leaving in the comfort of the home is worth his weight in gold.
Yes. So if you have some legal issues or questions, hit up Chris W. Fitzgerald Law. You can call him 972-842-4220 or just check him out online at chrisfitzgeraldlaw.com. And, of course, also want to thank our friends at Beer Geek Shop in downtown Rockwall. We were just talking about them. We did Just the Sip, the last podcast episode that you guys listened to. And they are the proud provider of all the beers for Just the Sip. They have hundreds of beers from all around the world. And nothing would be better for the beer lover in your life, or maybe it's just somebody who's mentioned they're interested, than the Jam Session 6-pack. Beer Geeks has it right now. 3 beers I picked and 3 beers that Jacques picked. That's 6 beers for $22.50 at Beer Geeks Shop in downtown Rockwall. That is a phenomenal gift idea.
That's a phenomenal deal, man. The beers are great. And the beauty of it is it's a wide variety, man. A couple stouts, pepper beer, a lager. I mean, it's all what you want. And there's even a bitter beer from Matt. So, it's a pepper beer. It's everything.
Yeah,
go get it and try it out.
I just had this thought, like, technically what you could do is wrap 3 of them and then put 3 in the stocking. And so you got a stocking stuffer there as well. Maybe it works that way.
Wow,
but
I like that.
I do. I like finding a high quality craft beer in my stocking. I'm not going to lie. It's local. It's family owned. Jason and Deidre, the husband and wife team that own Beer Geek Shop in downtown Rockwall. Get out there and check them out. Or if you want to know what's kind of available before you go, you can see their inventory, the beers they have at beergeekshop.com. But I want to have this conversation with you. So we're going to do this because it's that time of the year. As I mentioned, we're recording this on December 13th. And we are, what is that? Less than 2 weeks away from Christmas now. And we have started to get into our annual Christmas movie watching bonanza where not every day, but we are watching a lot of Christmas movies. As a matter of fact, this weekend, I'm trying to think, we watched 4 Christmases, We watch Christmas Vacation and we watch Christmas Chronicles 2 already this weekend. Yeah.
I mean, gee whiz, I haven't seen a Christmas movie in about 5 years.
And we've already seen Christmas with the Cranks and A Christmas Story, and we've still got to watch Elf because we watch that every year. And then we'll find some other ones to watch. But we like watching the Christmas movies. It's tradition. The 3 that we for sure watch every year are Elf, Christmas Vacation, and A Christmas Story. And I put this out on Twitter the other day about what are your top 4 Christmas movies, and man, did I get a lot of reaction from you guys.
Did you? Do I have a top 4 Christmas movies?
I think it's interesting. You haven't seen a Christmas movie in 5 years. Like, you don't see. I like watching them every year because it's usually only once a year that I'll watch them, and I enjoy them, and I'll always pick up on something, and I always laugh at the same places. They're just fun. They're so fun.
You know, I'm not a fun guy.
That's
I'm
true.
a great guy, but I'm not a fun guy.
Yeah, and you don't like comedies, and a lot of these Christmas
opposed.
movies are comedies.
Yeah, I'm not opposed to them. I just don't seek them out. I'm not even sure that Lovely Lorraine watches them.
Interesting.
And now my kids are grown. So I don't know. I've been deprived. I was going to say, maybe if you give me one to watch, I'll go watch it before next week and see if I was amused. And maybe it'll start something.
Yeah, because I'm curious about these. So my number 1 all time is still Christmas Vacation.
Oh, my God.
No, it's Christmas Vacation with Chevy Chase, and it's because my dad loved it. It came out in 89, and when I was a kid, I mean, even still to this day, I love when my dad is laughing his ass off. I just find that there's something about it to me. And my dad would just laugh, and he reminds me a lot of the Clark Griswold character. Like just certain things they do. It's hard to explain. Like back when we were growing up, and the way my dad could be fun and a little goofy, you know, and but in a good way. Kind of like obviously how I am. You know, he would be like that, and I always thought that was fun. And putting the Christmas lights up, and you know, we went and cut down our Christmas tree, and just different things like that I always thought was great. That reminds me of my dad, and so that's one of the reasons why I love that movie. Elf is my is number 2. I love Elf. Elf is phenomenal. A Christmas Story, and then number 4 for me, I had Home Alone, which I grew up with. So,
Right.
Yeah, I was trying to think, because if you want like a drama, like the classic, like It's a Wonderful Life or Miracle on 34th Street, something like that.
I would just say, assign me one, and I'll watch it, and we'll come back and talk about whether I found it amusing. Maybe I need to watch Elf.
Well, see, I don't think you'll like Elf because it's silly, random humor.
All right, but I'll go into it with a good attitude.
Okay, because I will say it is a heartwarming story about a guy who is kind of misconceived and is just a happy guy that loves Christmas from the North Pole.
That sounds stupid, but okay.
See,
I will endeavor to watch Elf. What is today? Today is Sunday, so maybe we'll discuss this on Thursday.
You know, and you've got A Christmas Story is always a great classic that I think is fantastic about You'll Shoot Your Eye Out. And there's so many great, it's really, I mean, A Christmas Story is really, Elf is kind of that way too. So is Christmas Vacation, where it's almost like sketches that are put together with the storyline, and each one kind of flows well and it works out really well. I was trying to think, like, I haven't seen It's a Wonderful Life or Miracle on 34th Street in years.
Now, see, I think I usually end up catching some part of It's a Wonderful Life.
That movie is so boring to me, man.
I haven't seen
and I know a lot of people
Miracle
like
on
it.
34th Street.
That movie's boring too. Like all old movies are boring, I feel like. It's hard. Like I haven't seen White Christmas with Bing Crosby. We were thinking about watching that. I was like, man, I'm going to go back and watch that. I guarantee you it's boring. Movies made that long ago, it's such a different vibe, and the acting is different to where I'm just like, I don't know. And I was in It's a Wonderful Life. I played George Bailey at Rockwall Community Playhouse several years ago. Yeah.
Did you do it with a Jimmy Stewart voice?
No. But I did one scene, like when he gets the moon. I did that in Jimmy Stewart voice to see if anybody would pick up on it.
Did they? Give us your Jimmy Stewart voice.
What is it you want, Mary? You want the moon? Well, how about I throw a lasso around it and pull it right down here for you? You just tell me what you want, Mary. Well, golly gosh, cheapers, Mary. You know I love you. Not bad, huh?
That's pretty good.
Yeah, so
it's just a smidgen more Billy Goat, but it's pretty good.
Yeah, you know, it's not bad for something that I just threw out there and probably hadn't done in forever.
No. Very well done.
But I think this is interesting because every year, and one of my friends on Facebook put this up just yesterday, and I see somebody talk about it, debate it, what have you, every single year. and that is the movie Die Hard. Several people who responded to my question, like, what are your top Christmas movies? Like, oh, Die Hard #1. And you're either in the camp that it's a Christmas movie and you're wrong, or you're in the camp that it's not a Christmas movie and you're right. Because it is not a Christmas movie. It's not.
I never viewed it as a Christmas movie, man.
You know why? Because probably when you saw it, Jacques, you went to the theater on July 15th, 1988, when it came out as a summer blockbuster. What Christmas movie releases in the middle of July?
You know? No, I just never viewed it. It's a whatever. I mean, it's an action thriller movie. It's not a Christmas movie.
Exactly.
It's just set in December or wintertime.
Right. And so here's the thing about Christmas movies, and this is the thing about Die Hard, all right? Christmas movies, like, for instance, I don't know, the Santa Claus. If you take Christmas out of that movie, you cannot have the movie. It's essential to the plot of what the film is. You would have to, it would be
yeah, that's a good way to do it.
And so Die Hard, you can take Christmas out of Die Hard and still have the exact same movie. Instead, because, and I had somebody argue, it might have been Juan, who was like, well, I mean, he flies into town because it's Christmas time at the office Christmas party, right? Okay, it could have been, hey, guess what? We're having our annual company holiday, our company party and I've worked for a company that did this, that had a big thing in the summer. And you could have had the exact same movie, and he flies in to see his kids in the summer. I mean, it would be the same thing. Christmas had nothing to do with it. But these people that argue that it's a Christmas movie, again, I will ask you the question. What Christmas movie is released in the middle of July?
I would say none.
Right. And I worked at a video store for multiple years. Video Village in Rockwall. Guess where you found the movie Die Hard? In the action movie section.
Not the seasonal beer section?
No, not the holiday section, not Christmas favorites. You found it in action because it is an action film.
Yeah, it is.
So good luck with that. And that's the thing. I mean, those two things you cannot. It's silly to me to act like that Christmas was essential to the plot of Die Hard, because it just wasn't. It wasn't at all. Like, you take away a lot of these other Christmas movies, like you take away Christmas from A Christmas Story, where Ralphie's going to shoot his eye out. Well, the whole thing is about him asking for a specific toy for Christmas. That's like the driving thing of the plot. So if you take Christmas out of that movie, then what is it? I guess you could try to do it with his birthday. But it just, you guys have got to get over this. Die Hard is not a Christmas movie. It's a movie that takes place during Christmas time. That's a different thing.
I can't believe we're still debating this years later.
I'm just telling you, man, because it comes up every year, and I have debates with people every year. And every time I go, okay, if you are going to make a Christmas movie and you own a studio and you direct a film, a Christmas movie, you're releasing it on July 15th? And they just look at me and go, all right, so I guess it's not a Christmas movie then. Am I correct? So all of you are welcome for that conversation. But I do think that's interesting that you don't watch holiday films at all.
Oh, you know what? Let me see. You know, the holiday film I watched was Preacher's Wife. That's probably the last one I've seen.
All right, Preacher's Wife. I've seen that. It's been a long time.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
That's probably at the top of my Christmas movie list.
Yeah, you got to watch some of those goofy, weird. Elf is, I'm telling you, man, like, Elf is, I think, going to just be too goofy and weird for you.
All right, well, give me one you think I'll watch and have some appreciation for.
Well, I was trying to think, like, have you seen, like, I haven't
seen it now. Like, is Trading Times, is that a Christmas movie?
Trading Places?
Trading Places.
See, I don't think that's a Christmas movie either. It just takes place.
That's probably the same thing as Die Hard.
Yeah, where it just happens to take place during the holiday season, but you could have easily have written that entire movie without Christmas in it.
Right.
Right, yeah. See, I wouldn't. Have you seen Home Alone? Have you seen Christmas Vacation?
I've seen Home Alone.
Have you seen A Christmas Story?
What's that about?
It's the You'll Shoot Your Eye Out, the Ralphie kid. It's based in like the 40s or the late 40s.
Man,
and
I'm like you, man. It's going to be so damn old. I think.
No, it came out in 1983. It's just set in that time period.
Okay. No, I haven't seen that.
There's some good gags in that, and that's a classic one that I've always thought was amusing, and it's got some cuteness, and it's not too stupid or silly.
All right. What's it called?
It's called A Christmas Story.
I should be able to remember that.
Yeah, I mean, it's they play it all the time, all over the place. So, all right, yeah, check that out. It's pretty quick. It's easy. You can watch that, see if you enjoy that, and then we can discuss if you liked A Christmas Story or not, because that's become like one of the all-time Christmas classics nowadays.
All right. I will do that.
There's so many of them. And I got to say, like Christmas Chronicles on Netflix 2 years ago, I thought was the best Christmas movie that had come out in years. Christmas Chronicles 2, they released, I think, like Thanksgiving weekend, and we watched that last night. I was very, very disappointed. It is not a good movie. It's a stupid plot. It's silly. The main character villain is just a dumb idea. But Kurt Russell, I'm telling you, man, I think he might be the best movie Santa Claus. That dude nails Santa Claus. He's just great at it.
I don't think I would have seen that coming.
I know.
Christmas Chronicles, that's, okay. I think I started watching that one on Netflix like a week ago.
Yeah, the first one's actually good. Like, it makes a lot of sense, and it kind of has an updated idea about how Santa's able to get around, and it's just a really good film. But man, the second one just does not work. It just doesn't. It's very disappointing. And then Jingle Jangle, which Netflix put out this year, which has Forrest Whitaker in it, is supposed to be really, really good, but we haven't watched that yet. Maybe we'll watch that later on. We'll see. Who knows?
Jangle. What's that about?
I have no idea. It's like he's in a toy shop and he makes magical toys or something, and Forrest Whitaker is in it. I'm not really sure. I watched the preview, and even with that, I was like, I still am not really sure what this is supposed to be. But it's getting a lot of great feedback, so we'll see. All right, so let's move on from our Christmas movie conversation and debate that obviously I just ended because Die Hard is not a Christmas movie.
Can I take a pee now?
Yes. I'm leaving this in here. Go take a pee now.
Hey, it's your podcast, baby.
It'll be great. Let's do it. It'll be fun. Everybody will know that now is the pee break time. If you're listening and you're like, man, I also have to pee, let's all take a pee break together right now on the Jam Session podcast. So we will move forth and get back into the Cowboys conversation now that we're all relieved and feeling better. And, this was an interesting week, I think, of Homer audio, just because, as I was mentioning earlier, I just didn't have a lot to get fired up about. My son has been with me, and we watched the whole game together, so there's not any of the screaming of profanities and the super craziness that, sometimes I get heated up. I mean, I'll yell at the TV with him right there if I feel like I need to, but not any expletives that needed to be beeped out in this one. So,
well, damn.
Yeah, that's how it is, man. And I honestly, I don't know that there would have been, even if he wasn't here. Just based on what we saw, it's just kind of like a ho-hum, neat. It's Cincinnati, and you're beating them. How cool. Now, there probably were a couple moments little bit later on that you'll hear that I might have been ripped them a little bit. But let's start off, and this is early on in the game with Andy Dalton when he would get sacked for the first time. Yeah, man, score a touchdown here. Why not? If you're going to play, might as well try and win, I guess. And they get sacked. No touchdown on this drive. God. Oh, my God. I mean, look at that. Brandon Knight's just like, go ahead and get a sack. Who cares? And they still will not have an opening drive touchdown for the season. You going to make this one leg? You going to make it or you miss it? All right, 3-0. How exciting. That's kind of my mentality for the whole game, where it's kind of like, whatever. That type of feel, I guess. But I did think that was, I mean, there's a little bit of that frustration there too, because you have a fumble, you get this great opportunity. Oh my God, you're going to get sacked, and somehow you will remain one of 3 teams in the NFL that does not score a touchdown on their opening drive.
Well, I think the frustration about that is that the opportunity was there because you had such great field position. I mean, it's not like you had to go the length of the field like usual. They gave you great field position. But, this is the problem for me, man, was on third. I wrote this on Twitter, I think, Matt. It's 3rd and 3, I think. I was like, just run it twice and go get it. When you throw the ball, if you get sacked, which is what happened, you eliminate the ability to go for it on fourth down. Plus, even if you don't complete it, if it's incomplete, you're probably not going for it on 4th and 3. So I was just all about that whole possession. You'd had just a smidge success running the ball early in the game. Just run it twice, however you want to run it. Whether you want to end around to CeeDee Lamb or you want to give it to Zeke, whatever you want to do, just go get the 3 yards and go get the first down and then start from scratch. But they've had, 8 first drives. They've got 3 punts, 3 field goals, and a couple of turnovers and a safety. So there you have it.
We'll go from that opening drive, I guess, disappointment, frustration to whatever would turn things around, which this is a moment of excitement when the Cowboys would score a defensive touchdown.
Oh, he fumbled it. You got to be kidding me. They're going to have a defensive touchdown. Unbelievable. Wow. Unbelievable. They're going to win the game. Are you kidding me? 2 fumble pickups. What are you guys coming to the camera for, acting like you're something? They're horrible. I can't believe this. And then he just scooped it up, and there's nobody there. Wow.
I get irritated almost.
Dude.
And then to see them celebrating, I was like, why are you guys acting like this? Like your defense is getting destroyed every week, and now you do something good, and it's like you've won a championship.
I mean, I think it's like anything else, man. You've got to celebrate your successes.
You got to celebrate the moment. It was a cool play. It was awesome to see Alden rumbling all by his lonesome all the way down 70 whatever yards that was for an easy touchdown it ended up being.
Yeah, I mean, I was laughing because it's the longest touchdown since Greg Ellis went 98 yards against Atlanta.
Wow.
In 1999. And I was there, and I can really remember that play, man, because I think he just lumbered the whole way. 98 yards for the big fella at 270 pounds. That's a big deal.
It is. So we go from a Cowboys defensive touchdown to somehow, some way, my reaction to yet another Cincinnati fumble.
Oh, nice play call. Oh, and he fumbled it again. They got it back. They didn't get it back. It's like, oh, hell, this guy. Oh, my God, are you kidding me? 3 fumbles. Unbelievable. I mean, Cincinnati is trying to lose this game. Holy cow. That's unbelievable. Look at this. Dallas got it. You thought it had it right there, and it squirted out, and then Jalen Smith comes in and picks it up. God, that is nuts. I mean, they're going right down the field on Dallas and fumbling it to them every time.
Pretty true. That was good analysis.
You know?
Yeah, that was crazy, man. I could not believe. And then they threw up the stat, and I thought this was the wildest stat. But then I thought, well, I mean, okay, so how many times do you have 2 fumbles or more by a running back in a game? And then they threw up that stat where Cincinnati had a fumble by 2 different running backs for the first time in the same game since 1994.
Damn, that's a long time, bro.
I know. I was like,
25 years, like, 26 years.
Really? Cincinnati running backs? And then the Giovanni Bernard stat where he hadn't fumbled in like 830 carries or something?
Yeah, well, see, man, I found it interesting. He hadn't fumbled at 800 and some carries. Then he fumbles, and then they benched him for like a half.
I know. I thought that was weird, too. I was like, oh, okay, because all of a sudden he's fumble prone now.
I was like, wow, really?
Maybe give him another chance. So we'll go from that to, I have this listed as the Dallas punt with the penalty. I think this is when they had the punt inside the 5 and then a penalty called and they had to repunt. That's what this is.
Wow, Tampa hasn't made the playoffs since 2007? Man, I wouldn't have guessed that. That's incredible.
Random.
And then Pollard runs right into it on 3rd and 1. It's a punt. Oh, well. Oh, man, it's going to be inside the 5. You know, typical Dallas, though. You get a punt inside the 5 and your team commits a penalty, so you got to punt again? Incredible.
Except that it's not, man. We've seen it. Actually, I had the same exact thought when it happened, and I was just like, dude,
yeah,
really?
Like how, right. Like you guys are going to do this, and the punter was so excited. He was stoked, like, wow, we nailed it. Now I got to punt again. Although they didn't lose a ton of yards. I mean, he got it down to the 12 on the re-kick, but still. So we go from that, and okay, this is me, I think, just talking to the announcers and the irritation that I have with some of the random crap that they've been saying. So here's that.
Look at the guys. Against Cincinnati, they're actually doing something. How neat. Just so dumb. So we're gauging our play against Cincinnati now as the measuring stick for the defense this season.
I mean, you are Cincinnati.
Tells you everything you need to know. They just talk about how everybody's around the ball and then A.J. Green's just wide open on a third down. I mean, they're making a really big deal of this dude playing hurt. It's the NFL, man. It's what guys do. Either be a champion or don't. It's just pain. And they're sitting there acting, oh, you know where that toughness comes from. His dad played 3 positions in college. So what? So his leg hurts. Get over it.
Dude, I thought we were going to come back with the Tim McLaren talk. My dad played in college. Shut it up.
For real, man. Like, I was thinking, like, while I was watching that, I was like, I broke my foot once playing basketball, and I just tied my shoe tighter and kept playing. I didn't have announcers like, oh, wow, like, he's obviously hurt. This Brandon Allen's got something here. Whatever. You're in the NFL, like I said. I mean, you want to play hurt, play hurt. Otherwise, get over it. Get off the field, whatever.
Wow.
Just saying.
There, man.
I mean, God, man, they would not let it go. Like, at first I got it, but they just kept bringing it up. And then, yeah, you can tell right there. He didn't want to. That's something his teammates will rally around. He's okay.
Leave it again. That's good. We good, man. Leave it alone.
Pretty much. That's how I felt on that one. So only a couple of more cuts because there just wasn't a lot in this game that got me going today. But this would be, this is a quick one on that 3rd and 4th down sequence when they were trying to get into the end zone closer to the end of the game for Cincinnati when they couldn't get it done.
4th and 7, gotta go. Make it a game. Come on. Nope. What is that? God, that's the worst throw you'll ever see in your life on a 4th down.
It really was, man.
Now. Dude, it was like 5 yards out of the corner of the end zone. I was like, what are you doing?
I know. I was like, where are you? What throw was that supposed to be completed to? Especially on a 4th down. I mean, at that point, you might as well risk throwing a pick because you got to score. And he just chunked it out of the back of the end zone. It was completely uncatchable. Really weird.
Man. Yeah, it wasn't even close. It was a non-competitive throw.
All right, so that will bring us to the final cut here on a fairly quick, I know, I just, sorry, wasn't a lot for me today, and this is a little bit of excitement here towards the end for Zeke Elliott.
I thought Zeke must have been hurt. They've barely used him. There goes Zeke! There goes Zeke! Oh, man, I thought he was going to bust that. A 26-yard gain. Got right there. I was like, man, if he cut... Yeah, he just couldn't. I guess he couldn't cut back in. I thought if he could just cut back in, that he's gone. Oh, well.
Yep.
Exciting, though. His longest run of the year, 26 yards.
Yeah, and it allowed him to get up to, I think at that point he had only 22 yards or something for the game. So he gained more on that one carry than he had the rest of the day, or close to it. Allowed him to, have a decent outing, 12 carries, 48 yards, but the run game is really a non-factor. And so whether it's him, not what he used to be, or him slowed down by hamstring and calves, it doesn't really matter. Bottom line is the running game has just been,
Yeah, and I got to say, there again today, when Tony Pollard carries it, there are times where he just looks more explosive. Like he looks like where he's going to bust it all the time. And really that 26-yard run was the first time in forever I felt like, oh, my God, Zeke, like you heard it in my voice. Like I thought he was going to bust that one.
Yeah, I did. For a minute, I did too. He just needed one more little tap.
Yeah.
Or one more little alley, and he did it. But no, I don't think there's any question. Tony Pollard's more explosive. But, Tony Pollard ain't built to carry the ball 18 times.
Right.
So that's the problem.
Like his role is best served, like we've talked about a couple of times before, when he's getting 8 to 10 touches a game, and however you want to get it to him.
Exactly.
So we will wrap it up after the cuts with secret audio of a Cowboys Homer here with a variety of random what have yous that came out of my mouth throughout the course of this one. Here it is.
He's not playing rotten. So there's no one in the stadium. There's no game. There's 4 guards at that gate, which means there must be 4 guards at every gate, because how would they know what gate somebody's going to come into? So they've got all these people working for no reason, that just happened to be there when Baker Mayfield's trying to get into the stadium. It's a dumb commercial. It is. It's stupid. Wiener Schnitzel. The runner's strong in that one. Amari. Pretty sure Santa just stole that car.
All right, so there you have it.
Wow. The shade at Baker Mayfield, bro. So
dude, it's not him. It's those progressive commercials with him. It's not, he doesn't write the script. They're dumb. I don't understand that commercial. It drives me insane. Why would you have 4 security guards working a gate when there's nobody in the stadium? Like, they don't know that Baker's going to come in. And so how did you know he was going to go into that gate? Why are there 4 people working instead of just one? I can't handle it. I can't handle that commercial. I hate the whole idea that he lives at that stadium is so stupid to me because we know that he doesn't, and none of the commercials make any sense.
Okay. I think they're just supposed to be stupid funny, though.
Well, they missed on the funny part, but they nailed the stupid part. So if that's what they were going for, good job, guys. Big time for you. So we will move forward here and go from secret audio there and a little discussion of the Cowboys game to what is turning out to be a very interesting finale, perhaps even locally, in the world of college football. Because yesterday we saw, and I cannot believe this happened, LSU, I guess, figured why not finally go out there and act like we want to win something. And Florida, and maybe it was Florida just going, man, LSU is so bad. We've got Bama next week. We're going to be in the SEC title game, whatever. But Florida did not play well. LSU played their best game of the year, and as such, LSU with the upset over Florida, and that eliminates Florida from the college football playoff.
Yeah, imagine that. I was shocked that the game was close, given how I've seen LSU play this year, which is very poorly, and all the stuff I've heard about Kyle Trask in Florida, even though they lost to A&M.
Right.
A team that I think is I hate, but ain't anything close to being special.
Correct.
I watched most of the second half of that game. They had some chances, but I was more surprised that they couldn't stop LSU. Like, LSU's offense ain't done nothing this year, and LSU's running up and down the field on them, bro.
Yeah, it was amazing how poor that Florida put up yesterday. And again, one of those games, all I can think of is that they figured we got this in the bag because they've been so poor this year, and we know we've got Bama next week, and maybe their focus wasn't. Who knows? Obviously, I mean, even with that said, Florida still should have won the game if that moron guy that they had on defense, like what in the world enters your brain? And I know that these are younger guys. They're not fully matured, but you've basically got the game, or at least you can force an overtime or what have you, and you're going to rip the dude's shoe off and throw it? What was that about? That's just a dumbass penalty.
Well, I mean, you say that's a dumbass penalty, but I was reading a quote from Dan Mullen where he says he made the tackle. I mean, part of the football move, the kid's shoe was in his hand. He kind of threw it, jumped and celebrated with his teammates. I don't think there was any intent to taunt. It wasn't like he was throwing it at their sideline. That's the great Dan Mullen right there.
Oh, okay. Yeah, the Dan Mullen who basically is trying to, and look, you have to because it's your team and you got to back your team. But Dan Mullen says after the game that they should, if they beat Alabama in the SEC title game, even with 2 losses, that they should be in the playoff because they've played 10 games. He said maybe we should have played fewer since apparently you can play fewer games and still get in, which, of course, is a shot at Ohio State, whose game was eliminated with Michigan this year. And so now Ohio State moves forward and they changed everything to where they're going to play Northwestern. And Ohio State, anything can happen, obviously, as we saw with Florida. I think pretty much everybody would be pretty surprised if Ohio State doesn't thump Northwestern. And then that's why Mullen's taking that shot, because Ohio State will finish undefeated and they'll get a shot at the college football playoff.
And, perhaps what he said would carry some weight if they didn't have 2 losses already and about to have a third.
Yeah.
So, come on, man.
You're out. Here's an idea. If you, and I say this all the time, if you don't want to have to say those things, if you have a problem with it, don't lose. And you're in.
Yeah, college football is what it is. I just never really even considered Florida because I didn't think Florida was that good, and I figured they would lose to Alabama. And so they would have their 2 losses. I think it's pretty clear to me, based on what we've seen thus far, Alabama's the best team. And to me, there's quite a bit of difference between Alabama and the other 3.
I agree with you. I think
are good.
Alabama is ahead because in years past, it's been Alabama, Clemson, Ohio State are all fairly the same. I think Alabama, at least with what we've seen on the field, Alabama is the clear-cut title favorite, number 1 team in the country. They're better than Clemson and they're better than Ohio State, at least with what we've seen.
Yeah, but I think we all know that the best team don't always win. So they got to go out and play. But I think that they're beating teams the way you should beat them when you're dominant. Now that said, I don't know that they've played. Who's the best team that they've played?
Well, apparently A&M.
Okay, but let's just keep it real. A&M is just all right. A&M ain't nothing special. But that's the best team that they've played. And so, you can only play who's on your schedule. But I'd say Notre Dame and Clemson, having played each other, is the only, Ohio State hasn't played anybody.
Right, no.
Say
and Northwestern's nobody. Ohio State's favored by 20 points in the Big Ten title game over Northwestern.
Well, Northwestern is like any of those other teams that you think is pretty good on a given day. But Northwestern lost to Michigan State. So I'm just going to keep it real with you. Your hardest task this week is convincing your players, hey, we haven't done anything yet. Make sure you show up and handle the game the way you should handle it. Because if you play sloppy, they're good enough to beat you.
So reality of it is this. Alabama is in the playoff. Win or lose to Florida, they're going to be one of the top 4 teams. Notre Dame is in the playoff. Win or lose against Clemson, they are going to be in the playoff. Ohio State, all they got to do is beat Northwestern, and they're in the playoff. And you can argue how you want, and you can yell and scream, that's no way, they're not going to put them in. They're already telling you right now that they believe they're one of the top 4 teams right now. The playoff committee's already put them in the top 4.
And what they have to do is play a representative game against Northwestern.
That's all they got.
Top 15 team.
All they got to do is win. So, they win and they're in, and they're going to win. So those are the 3 teams that are in. The 4th spot is where this gets really interesting to me. I think Clemson's going to beat Notre Dame in the rematch. And if that happens, they'll both get in with Ohio State and Bama, and those are your 4.
Okay, hold tight right there. I don't dispute that at all. If that happens, what's your order?
If that happens,
Alabama number.
Yeah,
I guess it would be.
It'd be Bama
Ohio
number
State.
1, Ohio State number 2, and then however and it doesn't really matter. Well, I guess it does because of who they got to play. But I'd be curious to say, I would think because conference championship, having won the ACC, Clemson would be your 3 and Notre Dame would be your 4.
And that would be interesting.
And then you would have Bama, Notre Dame, and then Ohio State, Clemson in the 2 semifinal matchups.
Because I think Ohio State Clemson would be another great game because I don't think either defense is as good as it was last year. So a lot of points in that game, I think. And then Notre Dame, Bama, I'm really not – I think that's more of a matchup issue. I'd see Bama's speed getting to Notre Dame.
Yeah, Alabama is – my God, they're good. 52-3 yesterday over Arkansas. They were tied 3-3, and then Devontae Smith breaks a punt return, and after that, they just dominated. And just like that, it was 31-3. They have 23 straight games of scoring 35 or more points. They went 10-0 playing 10 SEC teams, and they beat every team they played this year by at least 15 points.
They're pretty damn good, bro.
That's solid. Now, I will say, if you are an Aggie, you have got to just, and I don't care if you hate Notre Dame, if you're an Aggie, you might want to wear gold all day on Saturday because you need Notre Dame to knock off Clemson. Because Clemson would not get in with 2 losses. That would give you Alabama, Notre Dame, and Ohio State as undefeated 1, 2, and 3. And then it'll be interesting. And you can argue this however you want. I had people on Twitter, that's never going to happen. I'm just telling you, man. I don't know how much the committee thinks of Texas A&M. They're going to be 5 in the AP, as they should be because Florida lost. A&M beat Florida barely. Cincinnati is undefeated, has no losses. A&M got absolutely slaughtered by Alabama. It wasn't even close. So I don't know if the committee would look at an undefeated Cincinnati team, especially if they're able to get this game in with Tulsa on Saturday night, and they beat a ranked Tulsa team, and they finish 9-0, and they have a conference championship. Would the committee look at that and say, you know what? A&M and Cincinnati we think are kind of equal, but one of them has a conference championship, and that breaks the tie to get the 4th spot. I would still think they go Power 5 A&M, but that's the only way I can see it because they're going to have them neck and neck, and I don't know if they would use that conference title in that instance to say, well, we got to have another undefeated conference champ rather than a team that's not undefeated that didn't even play for its conference title in A&M.
Dude, what a fascinating question. I think, just follow me here, I think, given that scenario, they would go Cincinnati. One, they got the conference championship. A&M didn't even make the championship game.
Right.
They would say, we've already seen Alabama beat A&M by 30. They've watched the games.
Right.
We don't see why that's going to be different because it's not like they've been blowing folks out since that game. And then here's the sinister part of me. From the committee's perspective, hey, come on, let's just go put Cincinnati in there. They'll get beat by 40, and then we'll tell the group of 5 from here on out, stop wasting our time. We put one of you guys in there. You were undefeated. You had a conference championship. You did this, you did that, and you lost against the big boys by 40. So shut it up.
Yeah, and it wouldn't surprise me at all because I think that argument. And I'll tell you this, TCU fans can talk to you about this, A&M fans, because you're sitting there, you can even say, well, we're ahead of them right now. They wouldn't do that. They will, and they'll do it because the conference, you can go read the language of the structure that they follow, that if teams are considered equal, then the team that has a conference championship, they will put ahead. So right now, they may have A&M a spot ahead of Cincinnati, but after Saturday, when Cincinnati wins its conference, that may be enough weight to put them in as a 4 seed, especially the fact that they're undefeated. And like you just pointed out, Jacques, what happens in that scenario? Alabama 1, Notre Dame 2, Ohio State 3 because they're undefeated. That means A&M would be 4. And I agree with you. These are conversations the committee has where they sit there and go, look, we already saw that game. Alabama beat them by 4 touchdowns. They did. I mean, it was literally 4 touchdowns. Do we want to see that game again? What's the point? Cincinnati won their conference. They're undefeated. Who knows what's going to happen? We'd rather see that. Those are the types of conversations that they have. I think that there's a very good chance that A&M fans are going to end up feeling very screwed if Notre Dame beats Clemson again.
Yeah, I think you're right. That's why I think the Notre Dame Clemson game is, I can't wait for that one. And I think it's going to be a great game. And I don't know that Clemson will win the game. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't either. And that's the whole thing. But that's the only shot for the Aggies to hope that 4 spot opens and that the committee will give them another shot at Bama. It would be surprising, especially because they'd look at it and say, look, Alabama won all their games. They already beat you and they beat their conference and won the whole thing. Because they look at all this stuff, man. Is that fair to Bama to say you got to play this A&M team again that you already beat by 4 touchdowns because they didn't win the conference, but we're going to match you up? I mean, all this stuff comes into play.
I think I'm going to ask the question on Twitter directed at Aggies. Like,
oh, they get pissed in a hurry.
You had a chance to play Alabama. If you played Alabama again, would you win or would you lose? I need another caveat. Like, would you win a close game, a blowout, lose a close game?
Let's stop.
Lose a blowout.
Okay. And you got to look at it realistically. And I know a lot of you, that's just your Aggie hate. Look, okay, if Alabama played Texas right now, I don't think Texas would be within 35 points of them. That's just realistic. Alabama would murder A&M again. Nothing has changed except Bama. And you can say, well, the Aggies are better. Bama's better than when they played before. Aggies wouldn't score as many points as they did in the game that they played. Aggies, I think, lose by 4 touchdowns again. if they were to play A&M. I mean, to play Bama again. That's just the reality of where they're at right now. I mean, Alabama's on a mission, man, and they are nasty good. So that's just how it is. But we'll see. We'll see what they decide to do, and we'll have an answer, obviously, after next weekend's games of how this is all going to shake out and what it will mean for the college football playoff and what 4 teams will end up getting that invite after next Saturday. And I'll tell you, Aggies, you want to help your case? They're supposed to play Tennessee. Hopefully that game won't get canceled on the day in which everybody's going to be watching Cincinnati and Tulsa and Notre Dame and Clemson. The Aggies need to go out and absolutely destroy Tennessee and at least make the committee say, wow, damn, A&M beat Tennessee 52-3 or whatever. At least give them something to think about instead of, wow, A&M needed a couple of touchdowns in the fourth quarter to beat Tennessee, who's horrible, 31-22 or whatever it is. I'm telling you, man, that stuff matters. They watch the games. They have these conversations. We'll see. Thanks for listening to the Jam Session Podcast. Find us on Instagram at Jam Session Cast. We're also available on our YouTube channel. You can subscribe today by searching Jam Session Podcast. And of course, find us on Twitter at McMattRadio, at JJT_journalist. Thanks to Purple Elephant Music for the music you hear at the end and beginning of each episode. He's the radio and TV star, the sexy Jean-Jacques Taylor. And I'm just a guy, Matt McLaren. Tell your friends if you like what we do. Maybe they will as well. Tell them you found a kick-ass podcast and you want them to check it out. And then have them subscribe and review. And we'll catch you next time on the Jam Session Podcast, available everywhere you listen to podcasts.